It's time for WrestleShoot. The beast comes out in the dead of night. WrestleShoot eats a Tuesday night. Rob and Chris don't pull the punches, bitch. WrestleShoot. Breaking it down, WrestleShoot. Telling the facts, WrestleShoot. Stories on the road, WrestleShoot. That's our fire subjects. No party ever escapes their sight. Coming at you live every Tuesday night. Hey, WrestleShoot. Anti-social network, WrestleShoot. Sticky and hot, WrestleShoot. Sometimes act like jerks, WrestleShoot. Always bringing all the guts.
Oh, God damn, it always feels so good. Chris, you got a bottle of water in your shot, baby.
Hold on.
Huh?
Hold on.
What?
All right,
What?
finally.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. What happened there, Chris? Are you a magician?
Yeah, I got some magical powers.
Boy, fucking howdy.
Yeah, well, welcome to WrestleShoot. I am your host, Chris Casanova, and of course, the very talented Max Payne. Welcome back, brother.
Oh, it's so nice to be back, man. You know, Everest is cold this time of year.
Jesus Christ. What the hell happened?
Right.
What?
All right, there you go.
Okay. What the fuck? You are magic, dude. You're like, you know, all you need is one of the fucking wands from Hogwarts, man. You can just...
Yeah,
You got the magic touch, brother.
Yeah, I feel like Vader, dude. Just like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, ha, ha, ha. Very fucking...
I didn't do anything this time. My hands were at my side. I swear to God.
You know what it was? It was fucking ESP is what it was, man. It just knew to do that to poor Rob. Rob, where are you? Rob!
You can come back if you want.
What I want to know with that kind of magic is how can you make me look exactly like the guy on the still for our fucking promo behind us? I want to look like that guy all the time.
Dirty son.
Yeah, that's our secret, man. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk off the air about that. I don't want to give too much away.
Rightfully so. You can't give up those secrets in public, right? Then we're all fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Then everybody will do it.
Yeah, we keep it within the family, within the unit here.
Right.
So
keep it within the network, man. It's the network. It's all about the network, brother.
Right, brother. All right, I think you can stay. Do you want your seat back?
Rob, where the fuck have you been?
I'm not doing that, I swear. My hands are right here.
Well, you know what's happened is you started that fucking roll. You started that karmatic roll, and now we're gonna have to do some kind of universal.
Do it again. I fucking dare you. Do it again.
Hold on. Let's keep him here, dude. Let's do that.
Okay, yeah,
do it again. Knock the fuck off again and see what happens, dude.
We're trying to capture you, Rob. We're trying to keep you with us, my friend.
I will rack your mouth in with a fucking ratchet.
Come on, man.
Let's move you up to the other spot.
God,
now. Come on.
Calm down, man. Take a Valium or something.
No, I'm fine right here. Just right here.
I don't know. Chris, it kind of feels weird, doesn't it?
It's kind of, yeah, it is weird.
I don't know though. I'm kind of liking you up in the corner with the whole outside vibe going, and
yeah,
I feel like maybe it's a back to nature show today instead of fucking WrestleShoot.
Yeah,
hey, and now it's time. Right now it's time for our time at the lake cabin with Chris Casanova, Rob Wilds, and Max Payne.
Selling campfire stories and shit.
Well, the way it's laid out, it's Chris Casanova, Max Guyver, and then me.
Well, I was just trying to be I was trying to be grammatically correct.
And
I
Rob.
mean, I mean, don't let it weigh on anybody's mind that I was one of the founders of this fucking show almost 30 years ago. Let
But-
that just fall to the wayside, you pricks. You
It sounds funny
motherfuckers,
though. It
you.
says Chris Casanova and Max Payne and Rob Wild. That pause, right? And Rob Wild.
And Rob Wild.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up.
Maybe you guys could just do WrestleShoot and I could take today off.
What are you gonna
Oh,
do then?
come on. For the love of God and all things holy,
Hey,
Rob.
oh, I want you to settle down. Don't make me call your probie.
Okay.
I'll tag
Sorry.
you in. Come on. You want your spot back? Come on. I'll tag you in. Come on. Put the hand up there. All right.
All right. There we go.
Now you're on the bottom, babe.
Hey,
That's
I'm
all
okay being on the bottom. Let Chris have Venus
All
Superioris.
right. So everybody heard it here first. Max likes being the bottom. I get it.
I don't mind.
Oh wait, are we
I've
still
been
talking about
called-
the show?
I-
No.
I was a good catcher on the Cubs, so don't. I'm not afraid.
All right.
So by Cubs, you just mean you were really young.
Yeah, well, it was league baseball. I started out as a bat boy for the same team, so when I got to be catcher, I was okay with that. I think the only reason I was catcher because I was twice as big as everybody else on the fucking team, and the ball just wouldn't go by me, even if I fucking missed it in my glove. It would just fucking hit me because I was bigger than anybody else behind the plate.
Yeah, I think we need to just change the subject because now all I can envision is Max being molested as a child. So let's move on.
Oh man, why didn't you say that last part, man? Now I can get that visual.
That's a
off my
subject
head,
for a whole nother fucking story, right?
Good. I'm glad I could share my pain with you, you piece of shit.
And that's PAYNE.
Oh,
No, I don't share my pain with anybody. That's my baby.
Oh, thank
That's
you,
my
brother.
sweet
Thank
little
you.
drop of sunshine.
whoa.
And rightfully so, my friend. Rightfully so.
Dude, you're the top rat.
Yeah.
I've been called that before, but I'm not sure that's a compliment by the rest of the world's standards.
Was it a blur when they called you that? Like, do you remember that? Like that go? There's something
So
else.
The
Chris,
top rat?
Chris, you had something you wanted to get into this week.
Well, I was talking to Max earlier today, and he was talking about a story about Foley, something about abandoning him, and I had to cut him off and say, "You got to save this for the air because I feel like it's a great story." And
Well,
Max,
I think it
we'd love to
started
hear
off with us talking about Max dropping that elbow and knocking Mick Foley 29,000 feet into the soil, whatever number it was.
It was a big
Well,
number.
from-
It was a
That's
bunch
huge.
of zeros. Yeah,
We can talk about that
that's
too.
it's just one of those things that there's a lot of things that happened to me in my career that were out of my control. Rob, I showed you the interview with Mick on Jimmy Kimmel, and I if we can make that available, after I tell the story, if you think we can set a link up for that, you can't we?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It's going to make it out there sooner or later, but we'll let somebody else be the one to let that baby go.
Yeah, let their channel get banned.
Yeah. So we had just left the United Center in Chicago after the Chicago street fight. And we were walking back to the hotel through the parking lot, and Mick was actually spitting up his liver at the time. And he was fucking, we were both really hurt after that match. And it's funny is the one time that I'll never forget this because we were both fucked up. He got hit, and the thing that hurt him the worst in that match was when Sags hits him with the fucking shovel.
Yeah.
Oh,
I knew you
Down
were
on the concrete after he just took the bump off the fucking stage onto the concrete floor. He takes the bump, and then I'm fucking sitting there. Sags jumps up on the fucking ramp and grabs the table. And that's what hurt me the worst that night, other than the fucking chair I took to the back on the round part of the back of the chair. He hit me right in the middle of the fucking back with that. Oh, that's just a story. That one still hurts to this day. but then he hit me in the head with that fucking table, and I'm sure it was a major concussion. So both Mick and then I had a number of fucking contusions and shit from crashing through the fucking kayfabe stand we did. But anyway, that night Mick got really hurt that night, and for some fucking reason we both thought it would be okay that after the match, after a Chicago street fight, that we'd fucking walk the United Center parking lot back to the fucking, the Hotel 6 we were staying at in the fucking on the other side of the parking lot, which was a half a mile away. And Mick says to me at that time, he says, I think I'm going to make a change. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Kevin Sullivan as my tag team partner.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? And then he didn't really, it just kind of died. And then all of a sudden it was just over. Our relationship was just done. And I didn't understand why. I really did not understand what the fuck, what happened here. Why did this end? And then the next pay-per-view,
Kevin Sullivan sucked anyway.
Well, I'm not going to, I don't have to say, you know what, I'll just because if Mick and I would have stayed together, I really believe this, they would have put the straps on us eventually, because we kept chasing, we would have chased the Nasty Boys because the shit was over, man. That fucking United Center fucking street fight is held even to this day. I think I read it's like the 4th most respected or craziest fucking tag team match of all time. It's up there in the top 10.
Yeah, it's right up there with the concession stand incident.
Well, that's the part that made it so fucking interesting, right? I mean, nobody had ever done shit like that before. Yeah. And so here we got that fucking, so that whole tag team or that whole match was just one of those ones that everybody, this is one match you got to go watch because it sucks so bad. It's fucking amazing, and so anyway, I'm flabbergasted, right? I mean, I felt like we were literally, our interviews were smoking. I mean, Mick and I, he would come to me with an idea and then I'd bounce my side back on him and he'd go, okay. And we just fucking, man, some of the interviews, I watch them to this day. Somebody will send me a link to one and I'll go watch it and I'll go, wow, that was fucking fun. We just had a great fucking time. And so I'm like, I honestly, even like right now telling the story, I remember the moment. I'm going, did he just say, did I hear that correctly? He's ending. And then on top of that, Mick would I'd built this recording studio in Atlanta, and actually in Jonesboro, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. I built a recording studio to record the music for this upcoming movie. I've talked about it. It's going to be talked about more. I always had a vision. They say everybody's got an album in them. Well, I fucking cashed in my fucking round trip tickets to Utah and paid for and bought a recording studio and flew all my friends in and started recording this Lifetime album. And Mick would come to the studio and Mick doesn't party. Mick doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't take pills. Mick is one of those guys who's
boring.
Boring.
I didn't think so because the thing that was about that, you could say that, but the truth of the matter for me is I fucking loved it because he took care of me because I fucking did. I mean, he said it. I smoked cigarettes. I fucking smoked dope. I ate pills. The only thing I didn't do was drink, is because I think I'm allergic to alcohol because every time I drink, I break out in handcuffs. So anyway, Mick, he just fucking.
That was good.
He finally. So I really thought he and I were on this astral plane because he would come and spend out. In fact, there's an interview he just did on his podcast a year or two ago talking about it, and he quoted one of the songs that I wrote because it talks about my own insecurity about who I am and some of the things. And it's so funny because I knew how much he loved what we were doing. And we went to a Steve Miller concert one night, and I got tickets, and we went and sat. And it was at an amusement park in Atlanta. And Steve, I actually knew Steve, and this is where this is going. Has to do with Steve Miller part of my life.
Oh.
And we recorded this album. I'm going to make this as quick as I can. We recorded this album. Mick Foley was such a great friend. He came to the studio, and I actually took Mick with us to this concert. We saw Steve, and so anyway, then Mick all of a sudden is our tag team. Just one day, it just ends. It just ends. And I thought we were riding high on the hog. I thought we were on top of the world. I really did. I thought after the United Center, I thought really the next pay-per-view that if Mick and I played our cards right, they'd put the strap on us and let the Nasty Boys chase us for a while, or we'd continue to chase them to get the strap back. Or whatever. But, right.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Hey, Matt, before you go on with that.
What was that? I'm sorry, Chris.
We can hear you, Chris.
So he can just end it that way? Like, I mean, did he have that much stroke to just stop? I mean,
well, Mick was obviously much higher on the card than I was, and then after I hurt Knobs, and then he cried like a bitch that I did it intentionally and that it was all my stupid fucking clumsiness that caused him to get hurt. And we all know, if you watch the video, it's on my channel. If you watch the video, I'll show you over and over again the reason he got hurt. It was his own stupidity that caused that. But it's one of those things that even then, Eric Bischoff fucking hates me and hated me then. He hates me now. He's spoken publicly about what a worthless piece of shit I am. And but that's okay. But somebody was still, I think because Mick was still behind us at the time, that they were going to continue with us because it was a good, top level fucking tag team match. It was semi-main at the very least, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's over. We're going to Philly. Kevin Sullivan's on board. I'm off. And the only thing I got left to do is to come out and smash Sags over the head with a guitar at the Philly show. And that was it. And that was going to be the last. And I think he had the stroke because at the time, Eric Bischoff hated me so badly that all it took was that nudge to go, okay, this is exactly why Max needs to fucking go. And they got rid of me. And that was it. And to this day, and then that was my demise. Shortly after that, I was fired. I've told the story about Rude coming to my house, called Vince on the phone, and Vince put me straight, brought me in straight away. And we started to work on the Vince side of things. And so with Vince,
hang on, Max, when Bischoff canned you, did that 90-day no compete not apply to you? You just went right to Vince?
No, because they paid my contract off and fucking said, get the fuck out. They gave me the rest of my money and said, you're done. So, they dropped a check for like 35 grand in my hand and said, get the fuck out of, the WCW. And actually it's funny because I didn't realize when they canned me that night, it's so funny because they called me and it was TV. They called me the night of television when they fired me, and they said, you're fired, right? And so I said, okay. Well, when somebody says you're fired, usually that means like, now.
Right.
Don't pass go. Don't come to work tonight. We don't want you anymore. You're done, right? We'll pay you off. And I said, okay. So I didn't go to television that night. And at about fucking 7:00, I get a phone call from fucking Gary Jester, and he's going, where the fuck are you? And I'm going, what do you mean, where am I? I'm sitting in my apartment. He goes, you were supposed to come to television tonight. And I said, well, maybe then you should have fired me after
Tomorrow.
television instead of before, because you didn't
Yeah.
say, hey, we're firing you, but please come to TV tonight, right? And then they fucking went to, and you know who I was supposed to job for? I was supposed to job for fucking Stone Cold that night. They were going to
Oh,
fucking
wow.
kill me that night on TV by jobbing for Stone Cold, which jobbing for somebody in this business, I don't care how big you are on the card. What, really? I wouldn't have cared. I would have fucking I did the job for Vader. I did the job for anybody they ever wanted me to do the job for. I did. I never complained ever. Not once did I say, there's no fucking way I'm doing that. It's just not who I was. I was a pro, and because I always believed in the wrestling business. If they really want to push you, look at fucking the Bronx Bomber. The fucking, that's a classic example. When they really, if they really want to push you in the WWF, you could have done jobs which they proved it with their enhancement guys. They did it their whole fucking life, and then all of a sudden they decided to give them a push like Barry Horowitz. All of a sudden now he's fucking going over. Nobody gives a fuck in the wrestling business. I that's why when it drives me crazy when somebody says they're world champion 12 times.
If I may, let me just throw this in, Chris.
Not a real champ.
You'll like this one, Chris. Hustler, this guy we used to bang around with, he was the Octopus's son. The guy who used to tag team with Haystacks. He was his son. So just this big, giant, ripped out guy, shaved head. I used to call him Mr. Clean on steroids. Anyway, we're at a show, and he was the champ, and he was booked to work. I don't even remember who it was that he was supposed to work with that night. But for some reason, the kid thought he was going over and getting the belt that night. And that was never the plan. So he was pissed, and he was carrying on and bitching up a storm. And finally, Hustler rolled up to him and said, hey, listen, I don't know who the fuck you think you are in actuality, but if you really are that pissed off, then tonight, just between me and you, we'll go old school. If you can beat me, you can have my belt. Kid's like, what do you mean, like for real? He goes, yeah, we're gonna go out there just like they used to do, and we'll shoot for the belt. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, there's another option. I just smack you in the fucking mouth right now, and you shut up. But he's like, oh shit. Or the third option is you sit down, you don't say anything, you do what you're told tonight, and you listen to me in the ring, or I'm gonna fuck you up real bad. Because Hustler, Chris, you'll back me up. Hustler wasn't no joke.
Yeah, real deal.
Yeah, real deal.
Yeah.
So, and that was just going on to your point of like belts and shit of how, like, people who aren't trying to sell a gimmick, who are just being real, are like, this is a prop that I have to carry to the ring. It's basically an extra 10 pounds of gimmick that I have to wear tonight. But then the real deal motherfuckers will say, yeah, I'm the champ. You want to come get it right now. I'll take you out right now and you can come try to get it.
Yeah, and that's what I love. That's what, to be honest with you, brother, I mean, we all know it. That's what I loved about the wrestling business. The goal of the business is to go out there and not get hurt.
Yeah.
The goal of the business is to go out there and do the business if theoretically, if you go out and you do everything to perfection in the wrestling ring, you won't get hurt. Having said that, I'm going to quote Jesse, my favorite fucking Jesse Ventura quote. I never left the ring that I wasn't in pain, because it never, ever goes that way. Never. I don't give a fuck. There is never a time that you get in the ring that something doesn't go wrong, and all you can hope is to minimize the level of damage so that you can go to work again tomorrow night. That's why we were all addicted to painkillers and Valiums and fucking, everything it took so that you can get in the fucking ring again the next night, right? I mean, we all know that. So back to the story. Mick Foley just fucking ends our run. And I got to tell you, I was different kinds of friends with Mick. Mick had invited me to his home. I knew his lovely wife. I met Dewey and Nicole, his children. And Mick had welcomed me into his life, and so I am now flabbergasted. And at this time, when I made this album, one of the guys that I brought, it's a very long story, so I'm going to really minimalize this. one of the guys I flew in to help me record the album that was living in the recording studio with me because we were going to go on the road with my band immediately following the album once it was recorded. And I had people in place. I was meeting with record executives until I realized it was all going to fall apart, that I fucking put the brakes on it. But the shit was on. And this guy that was living with me was from Sun Valley, Idaho. Okay. At Ketchum, Idaho. And Steve Miller, the rock star, lived in Sun Valley. And this buddy of mine had talked to Steve Miller at a 7-Eleven in Sun Valley one day and tried to get his attention and couldn't. And so, but he said to me, Max, I know where he lives in Sun Valley. So let's record the album. We'll put 3 songs on a cassette and I'll take it to his mailbox and I'll put it in his mailbox in Ketchum. And I said, okay. So we did that. My friend flew back to Sun Valley and he went and put the fucking tape in Steve Miller's mailbox. Okay.
Wait a minute. That clip you said, that was Steve Miller? God, he got old, brother. I had no idea that's who that was.
Are you fucking serious? You didn't
Yeah.
realize that was Steve Miller? You're fucking working me, dude.
I'm not.
I'm such a mark, man. You got to be careful with me because I'll fall right into your fucking trap. So anyway, so now I'm fucking sitting at my house one day, right? And the phone rings.
I'm sorry. One more interruption, Max, and I'll stop. I just want everybody to know that the story he's telling you right now, moving forward, is verifiable online. There is a clip on the internet of Steve Miller and Mick Foley on the Jimmy Kimmel Show discussing this very thing. So this is fact checkable. Please continue.
I gotta see that video. I gotta see that clip.
I'll send it to you.
So now I'm sitting in my house one day in Atlanta and the phone rings and I pick it up and I answer the phone and I said, hello. And that voice on the other end goes, brother, this is Steve Miller and I'm coming to Atlanta to kick your ass. And I'm like, fuck off. And I hung up. And I'm like, I thought it was one of the boys being a jackass, right? Because I talked to one of the boys, actually not me, but the guy who actually put the tape in the mailbox used to brag to Mick and to like Rude was also another guy that lived in the studio with us. He loved watching us make music, and Tex Schlesinger, he actually lived in the studio with Brian and I, because Brian James was the lead singer of the band, who I got him his job in New York. If nobody knows this, I'm telling the whole fucking story now. So Brian James, who is Brian Armstrong, who is Road Dogg in the WWF, he and I flew to New York, and I after Vince talked to me, I brought him. I got him his job. And we started putting this thing together. That's how the whole Jeff Jarrett thing happened in New York. It was going to be this deal where Steve. So anyway, Steve Miller, the phone rings, and the guy says to me, "Don't hang up. Don't hang up. It's really Steve Miller." And I said, "Okay, really?" And he goes, "Yes, no, it is." And he goes, "Listen, Max, the reason I'm calling you is I listened to your tape." And he said, "I was fucking flabbergasted."
But this was months and months later, because he just took that tape and threw it in a basket, forgot about it, listened to it on a whim, and then called you.
Yeah.
So
he actually thought, funny in the interview.
You would have thought automatically it's a rib because it'd been so much time.
Right. I'd forgotten that my friend had actually, that we'd flown him. That it was out of my mind. That's why I thought it was a fucking joke, because everybody was going like, yeah, when's Steve Miller going to call you, right? So now fucking Steve Miller calls me, right? And so we started talking. Steve says, listen, my uncle was a fucking wrestler, and I've always wanted to be involved in the wrestling business. So how do I get to come and be a part of the wrestling business? And I said, well, I just am changing in the middle of changing careers, and it just so happens that I'm going to talk to Vince, and he goes, "Well, I want to come in and like I want to be your lawyer, and then we'll have a situation where somebody else is doing something like a guy is singing a song for somebody else who's taking credit for it, like Jeff Jarrett and Be My Baby Tonight. And I'll come in as your lawyer and we'll confront Jeff Jarrett. And then Road Dogg will come with me. And then Living Insanity will play at a fucking WrestleMania show. And we'll go out there and Brian will prove to the world that he is really the singer of Be My Baby Tonight. And the whole thing was going to happen at WrestleMania 11. I think it was the one that was in Hartford, Connecticut. That's when it was all supposed to happen. And I'm like, fuck yes. So needless to say, all of that shit fell apart. And here's why. So now Mick ends my relationship in Atlanta. And I don't know why. And he basically never speaks to me again till he calls me on the phone right after I got fired. Literally, I'm sitting in my hotel room because Steve Miller promised me that he was going to come to New York and do this with me. And when Vince called him to say, okay, we're ready to book you for WrestleMania, he goes, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Literally, he told me, yes, 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 yes. Vince called, no. So they fucking JJ Dillon calls me back and said, we just called Steve Miller. And he said, no, I can't do that. And I said, what? So I called Steve on the phone. And I said, Steve, what do you mean you can't do that? You've been telling me all along you were going to come and do this. My whole career is writing on this. He goes, yeah, well, I talked to my record agency. And I go, dude, you just fucking told me that the record company wasn't promoting your records. I said, do you realize the audience you're going to miss out on to sell your music to by being in the WWF? Do you realize the brand new audience of people you're going to fucking reintroduce all of Steve Miller's music to by coming to the WWF with me? And we do this whole thing. He goes, yeah, my agent said no. I said, dude, you don't even know what you just did to me. And I hung up the phone and I called JJ back and JJ said, yeah, so I just talked to Vince Max. And after Steve said no, we're going to have to let you go. And I'm just getting ready to go on tour for this tour in Germany called the Full Metal Tour, where in the beginning I was like on the cover because I was going to play every night in Europe on this Full Metal Tour and everything. And every fucking dream I had just went literally down the fucking tubes. Just like that. It all folded. And while I'm sitting there in tears going, everything just ended in my career, the phone rings and it's Mick Foley. He goes, hey, Max, I heard you're in New York, and I heard that, he goes, would you mind, they're talking to me, would you mind putting in a good word for me? And I said, Mick, I love you, brother, but you could not be calling me at a worse time. I said, I'm telling you right now, the last person you want going to fucking Vince for you right now is me. I said, I am fucking nuclear fucking waste right now. And I said, I would do it in a heartbeat if my fucking situation was different. I said, but I would do you no good. In fact, it probably would go the direction you wouldn't want it to go, Mick. And we hung up, and that was basically the last time I ever talked to Mick, right? So now I go on this tour, and only because of horseplay in the dressing room that my opponent got hurt, that they actually let me play the guitar on the Full Metal Tour. They weren't even going to let me play at all ever on that tour, not once. But because Rad Radford got sprayed in the eyes with cologne, all of which, again, Rob, thank you for saying this, all of which will be verified when the movie comes out. All this story that I'm telling you will be verified in the movie, because in the movie, you see Louis Muccioli with his eyes swollen shut from where Owen Hart sprayed him in the eyes with cologne. I went to Tony Gurria and said, you brought me on this tour to play. You do realize, because they were going to do a fucking battle royal every night. And I said, you do realize, like, I'm the only guy on this tour that can give you 15 minutes without an opponent. He said, what do you mean? I said, why don't you just let me go out and do what you brought me on this tour to do and play every night? And he said, well, let me call Vince. Okay, go call Vince. So he goes and calls Vince, comes back and goes, okay, Vince said okay. And so for the last 5 shows, I played on this tour. And that's how I was going to take that video back to Vince and go, see, if you'll just give me a chance, this will work, Vince. Look, here's proof. Here's the German crowds and these people cheering for this gimmick.
Great idea.
Right. And so I get, and the crowd, the video proves, you'll see the crowd is chanting in German. If you've never wrestled in front of a German crowd, it's so inspirational because when they love you, they chant, they have this chant. They go, zu gaben, and it's the whole crowd does it, and it means do it again. And so it's their way of calling an encore. So at the end of every show in Germany, that's what they do to get the band to come back out and play an encore. And so that I've got them doing this, throughout the 5 times that I played. And I was going to show that to Vince, but that never happened because the WWF was more than graciously happy to make sure I never fucking wrestled again. And the Clique was absolutely, you can see in the movie, they wanted to destroy me, and they did. So now, circa 5 years later, now we're getting to the Jimmy Kimmel clip and what happened between Mick Foley and I. One day I'm at my house in Utah, and I'm just in the backyard I was building a patio, putting brick down. My daughter pokes her head out the back door and she says, Dad, Mick Foley's on the phone. I said, what? She goes, Dad, Mick Foley's on the phone. I said, shut up. She goes, no, he's on the phone right now. I said, Dara. She goes, Dad. I go, okay. Because I didn't believe it. I thought this is a rib too, right? Fucking wrestling business. I thought it was Rip Rogers fucking acting like Mick Foley fucking teasing me or some shit, because Rip and I are really good friends and I love the guy. And so, and he got me my job in WCW. I've said it many times. Anyway, so I thought it was Rip fucking ribbing me. I pick up the phone, it's Mick Foley. And I said, hello? And he goes, Max, it's Mick. And he said, I have something to tell you, so I need you not to talk and just listen to me, because I'm going to tell you something right now. And I said, well, can I at least ask you how you're doing and how your wife and your children are? And he goes, no. I have something I have to get off my chest, and I have to get it off right now. I said, okay. I said, the floor is yours, brother. He goes, for the last 5 years, I have hated your fucking guts. And I said, okay, why? And he goes, because you told me that you were friends with Steve Miller. And I fucking was so tired of wrestlers lying to me that I couldn't believe you'd have the audacity to claim you were friends with a rock star the caliber of Steve Miller and fucking say that to my face when I knew wholeheartedly that you were lying. And I said, okay. And he goes, so it just so happens that for the last week, I've been co-hosting the Jimmy Kimmel show. And he said every night he has a musician on the TV. And he said, I'll give you one guess who was on the show one night. And I said, Steve Miller? He goes, yeah. And he said, I set forth that night to go out on national television and finally prove to the world what a fucking liar you were. I was going to go out and ask Steve Miller the story and have him prove to the world when he said, Max who? And I said to him, and how'd that work out for you, Mick? And he said, okay, funny man. He goes, so Steve now tells the story, and not only does he tell the story, he actually says, you recorded the album that Pink Floyd should have, or something along that lines, right, Rob?
That's what he
It's
said.
along
Yep.
that line. And
Pink
I'm like,
Floyd, right?
and I said,
Hang
no.
on, Chris. I want you to absorb the severity of this. So Steve Miller said on Jimmy Kimmel that Max Payne submitted to him the album that Pink Floyd should have recorded.
Right. I heard that part. Okay.
I
But you
mean,
verified.
okay, so for everybody
So
else,
Steve
that's
Miller believed
power.
Steve Miller believed in me and us and what I was doing. And I have actually, it's really amazing. I have this great letter, and I'll share it with you. And I'll share it with you, Rob, and we can put it on the air. It's an 8-page letter of how to keep from getting fucked by the record company, and how to make sure. One of the things that he said is, Max, whatever you do, do not surrender your masters. And he says it to me in an 8-page handwritten letter. It's not handwritten, but it's hand signed. He signed it, Steve Miller, and he composed this 8-page letter and FedExed it to me in Atlanta, which, as you can imagine, really pissed my agent off, because she was absolutely planning on still, and I would have given them to her, taking my masters,
Yeah.
and fucking, taking all my music and raping me like all the record companies had. But Steve Miller sent me this letter, so I never did. I still have my masters. So anyway, so Steve Miller now goes on the air and tells Mick Foley that everything that I said, every word that came out of my mouth, was absolutely and uncategorically the truth. And he says, Max, I'm going to send you the Jimmy Kimmel interview in the mail to say to you, I'm sorry. And I said, okay. And he said, I'll talk to you later. And he hung up. And I've never spoken to Mick again. And 2 days later, I got a FedEx package of the Jimmy Kimmel interview of Steve Miller professing everything I'd ever said to Mick, and that every word I'd ever said to him was absolute truth. So, as you can imagine, the part of my relationship demise with Mick Foley that hurts so horribly is that I had nothing to do with it. And even though Mick sent me this tape going, hey, Max, here's me apologizing, Mick Foley has never spoken to me again since that moment. And I've never understood. I always loved Mick. I always wanted to be a part of his life. I always wanted to be, and vice versa. I wanted him to be in mine. I wanted to do the tag team. And so through nothing I did wrong, our relationship ended. And I've never understood that, because there's some really funny stories, like the story about Mick and me introducing Mick to Tori Amos, which he has made public many a times, about us driving across the fucking plains of West Virginia listening to Tori Amos, and him crying like a baby when I introduced him to some of Tori Amos's music for the first time. In fact, it's funny because the first song I introduced him to is on this little EP where she does 3 cover tunes. She covers a Led Zeppelin song, she covers a Rolling Stones song, and she covers Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And if you've never heard Tori Amos's version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, you owe it to yourself to go listen to it. And I look over at Mick, and tears are pouring down his face. And Mick and I had so much in common. And so, as you can imagine, Rob, this is what I was saying earlier. I'm not mad at Mick at all. I love him and always have loved him. I've just never understood how our friendship ended through no fault of my own, and that he's never wanted to rekindle my friendship with him, because I forgive him. I have no animosity, even though it cost me my life. What
Yeah.
happened, and what Steve Miller did to me. I have an interview with Mick talking about what happened to me at the WWF, and the part that he left out is the Steve Miller part of the story, because the Steve Miller part of the story is what really burned my bridge with Vince. Vince wanted the Steve Miller part. The Click didn't want any of the Man Mountain Rock or the Max Payne thing. They hated me, and it's obvious in the movie. You'll see for yourself. The Click hated my fucking guts. But it wasn't until Steve Miller lied to me and said he would do this that my relationship ended with Vince as well. And then they called me and asked me for the guitar that I paid for back and designed and made and got done. And I said, fuck you. I'm not giving you your guitar back. And besides that, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to put it on somebody else? And even if you could put it on somebody else, who else is going to fucking play it? And now you couldn't put that guitar in public, even if you had a fucking Joe Satriani to play it. You couldn't have somebody play it publicly because it's a logo that you lost because you lost your battle with the World Wildlife Foundation. So you can't even use the WWF logo any longer. And so at that point in time, I pissed everybody off in the WWF when I said, fuck you. Of course, it wasn't Vince that called me directly. JJ called me and said, Vince wants to fucking have his guitar back. And I said, well, if Vince wants to call me and ask for it back himself, I'll give it to him and we'll talk about it. But until then, fuck you, JJ. If that's the case, I want nothing to do with you. And it's funny, I was at I know JJ knows who I am. And I was at a signing, one of the first signings when I came back to the business. He walked right by me, looked me in the eyes, and never said a fucking word to me. And walked right by me, and it's one of those things that my whole career, I based on other people, and in the end, that's what cost me my career. And I can't be mad about that. Did it cause me PTSD? Yeah. Yeah, it does. I dream about it every night because I was this fucking close, man. I mean, literally, if Steve would have said yes, if Brian would have gone to New York and done what he said he was going to do, we would have played at fucking WrestleMania and I would have been immortalized in WrestleMania history because everybody said they were going to do what they were going to do. But because all the people I wanted to fulfill my dreams with in the end said, yeah, well, your dream's not my dream. My dream ended. And as a result of that, I lost my job. I lost my career. And not one person ever in the World Wrestling Federation, WCW, I've never been offered another job after that moment in my career. Not once, ever.
Wow.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to have to take it home. But I just got to say before we do, Chris, fuck Steve Miller?
Yeah, fuck Steve Miller.
Right in the ass. Piece
Yeah.
of shit.
You know what, though? I don't feel that way. I'm very forgiving and I'm sad that it never happened because I would have loved to work with Steve Miller. But Steve Miller is a paranoid rock star and smokes a lot of weed. And he just was afraid that I was going to fuck him somehow.
Well, you're more enlightened than us. Chris, do we forgive people?
No.
We don't forgive shit.
Thank
I
you.
got. We got to take it home. We'll see you goddamn next week. Chris, don't leave.